We really think of GitHub as a collaboration platform for developers mostly. How do we make our designers more included? The annotation toolkit really helps us in achieving that goal.
Welcome, Jane. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
And I am so excited that you're here because you're bringing us a gift, the gift of the annotation toolkit. Can you tell us what is the annotation toolkit?
The annotation toolkit is a Figma library that can be used by developers, designers, product managers, anyone who wants to be a little more collaborative and share a little more information about their workflows so that that designer to developer handover is a little more seamless.
The annotation kit now is fully open source.
So this is now public on our profile. So that's at GitHub on Figma. It's free to use, completely open source. You can get some information about it here. If you've used GitHub before, this might be familiar to you. This is a skeleton of your profile page on GitHub. And we're going to use this today as an opportunity to show off how the annotation toolkit works. So if you just go into the Assets tab on Figma, you can see it here. Now, you might wonder what an annotation is to begin with, because even if you are a designer, annotations might not be something you use in your day-to-day workflows. These are basically just ways to express design intent and to add information that might not be visible on the design itself.
So an annotation is like a commit or no? It's like a discussion and an issue.
Yeah, so an annotation is basically just like this little stamp here. We also call them stamps in the toolkit. So for instance,
Okay.
if I want to make it clear that this is going to be an image, I can add this little image annotation. And what you'll see is there's a little number beside it. You can see the number 1 here. If I want to add any information about it, I can also pull this description into my Figma file, and that's got the corresponding number 1, and then I can add the description. So this is like GitHub profile picture. So one thing you might notice is that there's a really strong accessibility focus to the annotation toolkit. This was developed by our accessibility design team. And one thing that sets it apart from other annotation toolkits is that until now, annotation toolkits have typically been a tool mainly used by accessibility specialists. But we wanted to make sure that this toolkit is useful for all sorts of reasons, for people doing all sorts of designs with all sorts of levels of expertise in the area. So if you've never worked with an accessibility design feature before, this is not going to be intimidating at all. We've got a lot of descriptions, a lot of ways to find information, and it's pretty self-explanatory in a lot of cases. We have built in a ton of functionality so that your intent is as clear as possible. So for instance, I might make this a table. If I'm making it a table, and I'll add that number 2 there so we know the correct description, if I'm adding this as a table, I might want the engineer I'm handing this over to know exactly what the reflow behavior is. So if you don't know, that's the responsive behavior when you make the window smaller or you make the text bigger. So as you see, by default, it says horizontal overflow, but I can customize that here. And if I press none, you'll see a warning pop up that points out that the table does not adapt responsively. This means that this toolkit not only helps you express your own intent, but it can also give you really helpful pointers in areas you might know less about.
And so before we developed this toolkit, how did you used to do this? I guess, how did the designers and developers pass this type of information?
So it used to be more complicated in the past. We might do this with things like comments on the Figma design or even just Slack
Mhm.
messages. We actually found in our own internal research before we developed it that something like 48% of the accessibility audit issues that we encountered could have been prevented to begin with if there'd been more clear intent expressed during the design stage. So as you can imagine, having a toolkit like this that gives us complete clarity over how we express these things aims to bring that percentage down by quite a lot. If you're a developer who works in the front end, or if you're a UI designer, you might be familiar with WCAG, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. This toolkit aims to prevent pretty much every possible violation of those guidelines that could be expressed using these kinds of labels. You'll see that throughout the annotation toolkit, there's a lot of different guidance. So for instance, there's this sticker sheet that explains every single label and why you might use it. We also have these design checkpoints that you can either pull directly into your design or have on a
Very
separate
cool.
page. And these let you really understand exactly what it is that you need to be checking off to ensure that you're designing in the most accessible way possible. I will also show you our open source repo, so you can get this at GitHub/annotation toolkit. And this contains a ton of tutorials, guidelines, deep dives, and information about all of the topics covered. When I say that the documentation in this toolkit is extensive, I don't think I can even begin to express just how much there is in here. Our open source repo is a really great way for us to hear from developers and designers who are interested in furthering this or forking their own or adding any other information. You can simply create an issue and we'll be there to monitor those. Whether it's a bug or a feature request, we're there to help you out and figure out what we can do to support you.
What's up next for the project itself? Anything on the roadmap that you could share?
To be honest with you, this is already so extensive that it's hard to know where we'd even go next. There's actually support in this toolkit for some types of annotations that have never been done before, such as Android
What?
annotations. And we're really proud of those. So at this point in time, we feel like we've done a lot, but we always want to do more. So if there's anything at all you can think of that could be in our annotation toolkit, we want to hear from you.
And Jane, I have to ask, as a developer, why should you care? Why should you start using this annotation toolkit? Why do you think developers and designers will actually use it now?
Have you ever, as an engineer, received something from a designer and wondered, what on earth is this supposed to actually mean? I see all of these individual components here. I see all of these things, and I don't know what this is supposed to actually do. Annotations are a tool to enable Figma to become more than just a canvas, but also a tool for expressing a much deeper level of information. And if you're a designer who's ever dealt with a clueless developer, or a developer who's ever dealt with an unclear designer, you will know just how much of a difference this can make.
Someone who's tried to like and love and live in Figma and has been completely unsuccessful. I feel that at my core, so thank you. I'm excited for all of us to receive this gift from GitHub to open source and to make us developers less clueless when it comes to design. Thank you so much, Jane. Thank you for coming by and showing us the new open source annotation toolkit.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure showing it off.
And that was your first look at the new open source annotation toolkit. Try it out, open an issue, contribute. The team wants to hear from you. And if you learned something today, please smash that like button and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any other feature updates. I'll catch you on the next release.